open to all questions. I like an open discourse. I'm not challenged by that, exactly the opposite. I'm contributed by that because to lead a line of thinking about complicated issues, what we need in order to really get introspection and critical introspection about ourselves is criticism. And I'm coming to deliver something to you. Of course, I'll get no less from you. And we can begin, okay?
Yes, please.
So I'll begin with emphasizing that I'm going to speak about security analysis. But before just speaking about all that professional issues, I must tell you something that, in a way, taking all the following discussion to be less professional. What it means, it is not a lesson in mathematical affairs. Mathematical affairs, you can be really in pure mathematical thinking without any agenda, political or religious, doesn't matter what. Regarding strategical affairs, you cannot speak only professionally. It means that the debate will never come to an end by a kind of a critical convenience that someone will just bring the ultimate argument and then everyone will see that this is the true line and not the other. It is not like that. This is the main unique perspective about strategical dilemma. We are always in dilemma. And what it means, I wrote a book and it is called What National in National Security? Why in every state, not only in the Western cultural states, the same in Russia, in China, in India, the War College is called a School for National Defense, National Defense Academy, National Defense University. In London, it is Royal College for Defense Studies. But the name Royal, making it royal to the British national interest. We can never speak about a national of aeronautics, a national autonomy, but security affairs, basically, from the first assumptions, are national because we are just facing here a kind of interrelationship between two questions, one professional and one that is absolutely not professional. It is political, religious, cultural, everything, but not professional. The first question, professional, is how we are going to defend our state, our country, our homeland. The focus about how, making it a kind of professional debate or issue. The other question is not only for what we are going to defend our country, it is much more basic, for what we are living. And if we have an answer about for what we are living, it is creating the framework for all the other discussion, including the questions about how we are going to defend our homeland. Because that professional questions are absolutely dependent upon the main issue, for what? And if we are just speaking about Israel, for what we are living here, if it is just to find a safe shelter for Jews after Holocaust, it could be found in New Jersey, in Australia. Therefore, in the final analysis, just by judging the whole project from overall expected utility calculation to give every Jew million to send him to a safe shelter in New Jersey or Australia will be really more efficient. It means that security in itself, it is not even means to an end. It is part of the whole story. And the whole story is that security is not the main issue. Security is byproduct. What we are looking to find here is homeland for Jews according to the biblical prophecy that we are regathered according to all prophecy of Isaiah, Jeremiah, and Malachi, etc., coming back to our homeland according to the main promise to Abraham that this land will belong to us. And therefore, I'm really happy with the fact that the last agreement with the Emirates and Bahrain is called Abraham Accord, because not only because we are all in Bahrain, Emirates, and here children of Abraham, but also because we are here just due to that promise to Abraham. This is the basic. If we are not beginning with that, the whole following discussion will lead to another direction, to another orientation. After saying that, we can just come to speak about security. What I'm saying by that is that even though it is not like that, but even if what we can say about the whole purpose is to find a better place, absolutely safe for Jews, and this is something that the European Union can accept, and President Biden, if he'll be president, will accept. Of course, he is accepting that. They are accepting that only in the very narrow strip of the seashore, not accepting that on the mountains, not accepting that on Jerusalem. Just take, for example, the whole scandal about a hill in Jerusalem that right now, in the last day, it is in focus about a program to build 600 flats, apartments. What it is nothing. But it is coming from those who are really accepting Jews to be well protected in the seashore as a ghetto, but not to come to redeem the whole Jewish people according to the Bible, because redemption in this land is not Tel Aviv. The function of Tel Aviv is to be a gate to Jerusalem. Without being a gate to Jerusalem, Tel Aviv is a little part of Manhattan or Brooklyn in Mediterranean. This is not our story. But after all, to those who are really coming to give us protection and security, I'm telling them, forget about that, because it could be a possible purpose, a possible enterprise to do that in that narrow strip, including all the constraints. And I'm going to speak about that constraints and limitations of this narrow strip. We have here the map. You can see it. You can see the seashore between Netanya and Tel Aviv, Rishon LeZion, living 60% of the Jews. In that place, that absolutely controlled by the mountains from east, we have most of Israeli strategic assets, like electricity stations, like other main assets like water purification systems, etc. So how we are going to protect this heart that is dangerous in a way that no other capital in all over the world is threatened by enemy. 15 kilometers from Tel Aviv, we are coming to the 67 border. Who can defend that? Where we can find a military expert speaking about how we are going to defend, can give a program for that problem. By no means, nobody can do that. And we will just follow that analysis. Sure. I spoke about the mountains and the seashore. You can find that speaking about the range, it is 15, 17 kilometers to Tel Aviv, almost 40 kilometers to Haifa, to Beersheba. All of Israeli military airports are under immediate attack by rockets from the mountains. So who can give a promise that if we are giving all this place, like we gave that to the Palestinians in Gaza, we will not face a much more problematic threat than what we are already facing from Gaza, but now it will be on the door of Tel Aviv. Here I'm presenting a map that was published by Pentagon in November 1967 after UN resolution 242, and all these places that are in green, in a kind of lines, emphasize places that they recognized in the Pentagon that are necessary for Israeli security. Among them in the south, Sharm el-Sheikh, places in the west side of Eilat already given back to the Egyptians, all Judea and Samaria, on the Golan Heights, of course, the Jordan Valley. It was published by Eugen Rostov, that was a Deputy Secretary of State in United States, and he wrote an article about that. And today, the threat is much more really dangerous and much more complicated than what it was in '67 due to the new changes that really changed. A revolution in military warfare, and we can just learn the last war in Nagorno-Karabakh, the war in Donetsk, the war in Syria, in Libya, in Yemen. Why, for example, the Saudi Arabia, that are well equipped by Americans, not succeeding to destroy the threat from Yemen by the Houthi? Is there really absolutely disabled with all the American weapons? My attitude and explanation is that something critical was changed in the whole military affairs. And nobody of all experts from the last century could really understand the new threat of the 21st century. And this is my main answer to a lot of Israeli generals that speaking that we can do that. They are just speaking about '67, like General Amram Mitznah. He was my commander, very nice guy, that said, the most Israeli great victory was in June '67. We succeeded to achieve this victory from the borders of '67, so we can withdraw to the border of '67. And if we will have a new threat, we will fight again and get again the same victory. I'm telling him, listen, it is like to come to the Red Sea and say, God, you remember, you did a miracle to the children of Israel. Now I'm waiting, do that again. Everything was changed from that time. Who can really trust that something like that will happen again? And by promising that they can repeat this success, they are just presenting misunderstanding about the whole changes in military affairs. Here I have some pictures. You can see from a village, Palestinian village, that today controlled by Israeli troops, if it will be given back to build a Palestinian state as they want, we can see how they are observing and controlling Ben Gurion Air Force, Ben Gurion Airport. You can see the tower, you can see everything. And it is a picture that was made from these buildings of the village. Take another picture. You can see Tel Aviv, all the towers of Tel Aviv. I presented that picture in the Senate in Washington, and one of the members in that presentation said, I bought a flat here in this project. Told him, okay, this is a way you will be observed if you will support the Israeli withdrawal to 67 border. Another, again, this is how an airplane taking off in the line of the Israeli main airport. Who can defend that? I can tell you that when Condoleezza Rice was the Secretary of State, and Ariel Sharon explained her about the risk that will come to Israeli main airport, and she said, you're speaking about professional affairs, I'll send my experts and they will analyze that. Let them to give me their conclusion. And after a week, they said, not only that the Israelis are not allowed to take the risk by accepting withdrawal, even today, in just taking that risk according to American standard, Airport Ben Gurion is not really fitting to American standard, to begin with right now. So what will happen if we will withdraw? No one can give you answer. You can see everything. The pictures are speaking better than me, okay? You can see, this is main Israeli road, Road 6, going from north to south. This is a wall that was built to separate and protect the road from Kalkilia. Actually, today, behind the wall, we have a Palestinian city in the hands of Palestinians. This wall was built after a girl was killed by shooting her from the Palestinian side to the road. Who can really protect a main road that actually will come to be the border? Where in the world we can find a military problem like that? Not in any field manual books of defense, in all over field manuals that I already have read in all my life. Okay. Here, what I spoke before about the risk to the Israeli strategic assets, and you can just see the border, the green border, and ask in what responsibility an Israeli leader can accept the risk to bring Israel back to that situation in times that the risk became, by catalyzation of new warfare, just bigger. And here, all Israeli strategic assets, airports, military and civil, seaports and naval bases, main power plants, freshwater system, essential communication and traffic centers, central facilitator for the military command system, all headquarters of Shabak, Mossad, are directly under short-range rockets. No way to do that. Now we have to take a look to the outcome of Oslo agreement that was led by Yitzhak Rabin And this is the map of the situation right now. All brown is in Israeli hands. It is what we are calling Area C. All the other white and I don't know how to call that, they are in the hands of Palestinians, Area B and A. And everyone can ask why we don't have a kind of territory with continuation. This is a great genius idea of Yitzhak Rabin. And we have a kind of experimentation, a real strategic experimentation. What happened in Gaza could bring in a kind of a comparative analysis to what's going on here. In Gaza, they got a full connection between other places after the Israeli withdrawal, and this affords them to create a strategic risk to Israel. The way Rabin created that, with all the brown colors in Israeli hands, created the possibility to prevent what happened in Gaza. First of all, the all brown in the right side is the Jordan Valley. And by that, we are isolating the whole Palestinian places from all weapons that could be smuggled to them as they have been smuggled to Gaza. We are controlling that in our own hands with our own effort. General John Allen worked for John Kerry, offered that it will be made by Americans, by 300 Americans. It couldn't really be possible that they will succeed to do that. And we'll speak later about the idea that in 21st century, no one can really promise a kind of demilitarized state. Why? Because the idea of demilitarization and inspection about demilitarization could be inspected in the last century, because we spoke about armored divisions that beginning to move from one side to another. Immediately you can get indications that they are in movement. Who can really inspect a movement of a rocket hidden in a track of potatoes crossing the Jordan bridges? Nobody. And even if we can really promise that, today everything could be produced at home with all new capabilities. So in Gaza, the Hamas are really producing everything. Even long-range rockets that attacking Tel Aviv could be produced at home. So who can really speak today about demilitarized zone? It is just an empty concept. It is a lie. So we have the right side with the brown that giving the isolation. All the other lines are just giving bridges to connect Jordan River to the seashore, and all settlements are in the brown color. It means that all the settlements are built by supporting the military effort to keep the necessary positions to protect Tel Aviv. Without that, no protection to Tel Aviv. Okay? Another picture of that, you can see the difference between zone A and B. Zone A, they are mainly the cities. They are absolutely in Palestinian authority and Palestinian security forces. And the other colors, they are a kind of autonomy to control civilian affairs by Palestinians and military affairs by Israelis. And all the rest is zone C, as I explained. Just now imagine what is the Jordan River. When Yitzhak Rabin explained in the Israeli parliament, in the Knesset, about his main approach with his basic assumption He emphasized the necessity of the whole Jordan River, and he spoke about that, the Jordan Valley in its interpretation. What it means in its broadest interpretation, someone can think that the Jordan Valley is just a river. Not. No one can protect just river. No one can protect just the road along the river. You must get the mountains controlling it from west, and then you must have the other mountains controlling them in order to maneuver troops, logistic capabilities. It means that speaking about the Jordan River must be in a strip of more than 20 kilometers. And this is an Israeli demand necessary for Israeli security. And all this territory today is empty. And the Palestinians are insisting to take out the Israelis from that place. And we are insisting that without people, Jewish people, Israeli people living there, and without military activity in this place, we cannot really give any security to the other part of Israel along the seashore. And if I spoke about Rabin, we can speak about 4 principles. He emphasized these principles in his speech in the Knesset. It was taking place 1 month before the murder. And you can read that. I'll just explain you very briefly. The first one is the aspiration to reach the establishment of State of Israel as Jewish state. What he succeeded to do that most of Palestinians, since January 1996 that it was accomplished, are not under Israeli occupation. They are directly controlled by Palestinian Authority. And in Gaza, it happened before, since June 1994. And since 2007, when Hamas took the regime in Gaza, all Palestinians in Gaza are absolutely not under Israeli occupation. Speaking about the occupations that must come to an end is a lie, because more than 80% of Palestinians are not under Israeli control, not at all. Another principle that he insisted that all Jerusalem must be in Israeli hands, including Ma'ale Edomim, Givat Ze'ev, of course, including this here, that last day, all the European Union ambassadors came to protest why we are building that. We are building that because this is our capital. We are Jewish, this is our capital, and we will build. They can jump forever. It is not our business to deal with it. The third principle is that we need the whole Jordan Valley in its broadest sense of the term. And the last one, he spoke about the Palestinian as an entity less than a state. What he really wanted to emphasize by speaking less than a state, it means that who will control the air? Israel. Who will control the electromagnetic spectrum? Israel. Because if we are not controlling that, they can stop all cellular phone in the seashore, because they are sitting on the mountains, and it is very easy with very simple assets just to destroy the whole capability of Israel to keep freedom by using all these necessary instruments. These are Rabin's principles. And then we can ask, who is really the followers of Rabin? I am the follower of Rabin. Okay? And if we are just trying to explain why I'm finding all those generals, Israeli generals, and I'm asked a lot again and again about that. I participated in a meeting. It was a seminar conference in Berlin with people from the Chancellor office. I presented my approach. A member of Knesset left wing was there, Stav Shafir, and he told them, don't listen to Gershon. He is very, very small minority. 99% of all Israeli military experts thinking different from him. First of all, it is not an argument. Galileo was single by struggling with the church. The same about Copernicus, the same about Einstein. So what a kind of argument is that all the others are not thinking like you. And thinking scientifically, it is not beginning to be an argument. But even though what I did here, I constructed the kind of basic assumptions that really describing the concept, and they have a conception. And in my attitude, it is misconception. All the following assumptions to me are false. And I'll just describe each one of them, why it is false. The first one is that special difference.
Gershon?
Yes?
We're just using the computer. We're joining you in a second.
Yeah.
I'm really sorry for that.
It's okay.
Just a second, please. I'm sorry.
It's fine.
Trying to join again. Allow us to join.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, just a second, please. We're sorry. Okay, just a second.
It's important.
Okay.
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 We can follow?
Yeah, we can continue.
Okay. So I'm saying again, I'm repeating myself. I constructed 4 assumptions that in my analysis are all false. I'll explain why they are false, and I'll begin to read each one and to explain why it is false, and this together, in my understanding, could really present the attitude of all those who are supporting withdrawal. The first one is that special separation, including massive uprooting of Jewish settlement, will define borders, reduce friction, and create a trend of stability. Why it is false? Because in my attitude, the borders, clear and cut, that we created in Gaza after absolute withdrawal, not at all created stability. Exactly the opposite. They created the potential of the whole project that builds the military capabilities of Hamas. Now it is well-formed military organization with headquarters, with weapons, with a process to build equipment, with training, everything. They succeeded to do that due to the separation. It means that for Israel, the separation is a threat, not an advantage. Exactly the opposite. And why I'm saying that? Martin Indig always say again and again, good fences making good neighbors. It is true between John and Smith, living in Texas, going on Sunday to the same church. It is absolutely not true in application to the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. The other premise is if stability is undermined to the point unbearable security threat, the Israeli government will know how to make the necessary decision and will send the IDF to just eliminate the threat. Why it is not true? Because theoretically, it could be very nice. Practically, every time there is a new constraint, why not now to take a decision to go to war? First of all, we cannot do that again and again every month. Secondly, once it is exactly in the holiday. Another time, it is exactly in a visit of president, doesn't matter whom, a Eurovision, for example, that happened in times that they launch rockets, and to the end of the beginning of opening of that Eurovision, we didn't really could promise that it will happen. And if we would just decide to go to war, nobody will come to that event. It means that the Israeli stability cannot really keep the promise that they will have the freedom. We lost the freedom to take decisions like going to a war. It is not easy to decide to go to a war. Another premise is that the IDF, with constant superiority, will be able to remove this security threat within a few days. Not at all true. Just learn what happened in 2014, August and July. It took 51 days, and it was not easy at all. And Israeli superiority is absolutely bypassed with deep wisdom by Hamas, Hezbollah, and Iran. Basically speaking about constant superiority is not to understand military affairs. And the last one, that's the withdrawal from Judea and Samaria, and the end of occupation will give such Israeli military action extensive international backing. Not at all. Look what happened after the operation in 2008 with Goldstone report and the Hague research. So again, we are not supported by legitimation of all the international community. So everyone promised that if we will just take a withdrawal, then we will get a kind of open check to do whatever is necessary. It is not at all true. Let me see. Here I have a list of what is really necessary to do. And first of all, Jerusalem must be a huge city, a metropolitan in Israeli hands. Who can really manage a divided city between two states? Well, in the world, we have something like that. It is absolutely bullshit. And a lot of other missions to do, and not to really explain each one of them. I can tell you that you can find a research just that I published in Begin Sadat Center. It is here. This is the research, and it is called the West Bank Area C, Israeli Eastern Line of Defense. I'll be really happy to send it to you immediately after. You can read in details everything. Okay. So in order to build Jerusalem, we must build to the east side of Jerusalem and to connect settlements in north side of Jerusalem with south side of Jerusalem, etc. Okay, go ahead. And just in order to understand how far is what I'm speaking, what far Rabin speaking from what was the line in which the Palestinians are pretending now to begin again the negotiations. They are saying that they want to come to begin the new negotiation from the moment and point in which they have been just ended. It was in time of Prime Minister Ulmer, and this is the map. And you can see that Jerusalem is divided, and no at all a kind of conditions that could support Israeli security. It means this map of Annapolis that was presented by Ehud Olmert is a huge disaster, catastrophe to Israel. And I'll do my best to convince everyone that nobody in Israel could accept to that program. And what I spoke before about how to create a territory with separation, we have the kind of experimentation that was made in Gaza with clear separation between here and there. The Palestinians are there, we are here. A very clear border with fences, with obstacles. It is not at all giving security and not at all giving human rights and good conditions for the Palestinians in Gaza, because they are closed in this cage like a prison. On the other side, this is what I'm calling binary order. I'm really preferring the other order. I'm calling it hybrid order. It means that what happened by the map of Yitzhak Rabin created a kind of coexistence with Palestinians. If you will just learn in a kind of comparing style of living, form of living in Judea and Samaria, Palestinians, to Gaza. Of course, those in Judea and Samaria are living much better. And they are living much better because they are working in Tel Aviv, they are working in settlements. They are paid 500 shekel for a day. In order to understand what it means, at the beginning of that last year, the teachers in Jordan protested to get more payment. And they insisted to get 300 Jordanian dinar. It is for months. It is 1,500 shekel for months. A Palestinian worker doing that in Israel in 3 days. Therefore, 2,000 Jordanians are coming to work in hotels in Eilat because they are well paid. So this kind of hybrid order is what I'm really suggesting. It is much better to everyone that really understanding human being interest, a human being honor, and human being necessary conditions for good living. So we can, after what happened in 2005 with the withdrawal from Gaza, have the opportunity to ask, we have that kind of solution and that kind of solution. Which one is better if we are really, really, really honest, speaking about a human honor? I'm sure that even if it is not just my point of view to say what is better, ask the Palestinians. And I'm speaking with them a lot. I'm open to questions.
Thanks a lot for your presentation. So with your proposals, what will be the long-term status of the Palestinians living in the West Bank?
Either they will take the whole potential of autonomy that they already have under the Palestinian Authority in Zone A and B, or if they don't want, they can struggle. At the end, they could really lost everything, or to come back to accept what was already offered for them. Nothing more than that, and it is a lot.
So what will be the, if they pressure to get voting rights within Israel, what will be your answer?
A lot of them are really speaking like that. I'm not afraid from that. I am not at all afraid from living with Palestinians, but in one condition: this state is not an ordinary state. It is basically a Jewish state. If they are accepting that the Jewish state, it means the state in itself is Jewish. No example about that in all over the world. We are creating here something very special. And to analyze this uniqueness with comparing it to Denmark, to other places, will not really lead to what is necessary for understanding him. And a lot of Palestinians could accept that. If they will accept that, everything is open.
So there was another question from the audience regarding what could happen if there is a war, and what could happen to the Palestinian civilian population in the West Bank.
They're living in their villages. They lost a lot in what they are calling the second intifada, in all the struggling between 2000 to 2003 and 4. They are really living with sharp memory of this disaster for them. It was, of course, not easy for us, but for them it was disaster. And everyone wants peace, must accept the risk of war, and we are not at all afraid from fighting.
So we have other questions from the audience. Is it, if any withdrawal from settlements would be actually advanced, would it be possible to settle the inhabitants of the settlements in Israel proper? It's one question from the audience.
No, it is against all human rights. I lead the struggle to prevent that. I was, as a general, responsible to uproot the Jews from Gaza Strip, and I'm sure that all the people in Israel learned the lesson. It was very hard speaking about 10,000 people. Today they are speaking about more than 100,000 people. Not anymore. Forget about that. And I don't know who can really think that something like that could be described as a step for peace. It is a destruction.
Yeah. Then the other question, why do you think that the Palestinian issue is so much in focus in the Western world?
First of all, a new kind, or a very protected form of anti-Semitism. Who cares about the Kurds, for example? More than 30 million Kurds without a state that was promised them by President Wilson when he joined the First World War. He conditions that with the idea that after the war, not anymore colonialism, and to give self-determination to every group of people. Why the Kurds didn't get at that time any possibility to self-determination, and they are more than 30 million, 40 million, and everyone betraying them. Why people in all over the world not really sensitive about the problem of the Kurds, and they suffered so much in the last 10 years with the war in Syria, with ISIS, with the Turks, with the Iranians, with the Iraqis. Why? Why the problem of 2 million Palestinians bringing the interesting focus of all people in the Western countries with money, with the ambassadors that supporting the Palestinians. Why? Who can explain that in rational explanation? What's the difference between a lot of other places that nobody cares about them? The only answer is that it is a holy land.
We lost your audio now. Sorry. Did Gershon's sound go away from all of you? Yeah. Gershon, we cannot hear you anymore. Can you hear us? Oh.
And Abbas Zaki, can you hear me?
Yep.
Abbas Zaki, he's one of the founders of Fatah, from the first participants as an ambassador of Palestinian Authority in Lebanon. He said in TV, and I'm citating him, he explained why he is supporting two-state solution. And he explained that if you will take the Jews from the places that inspiring them, Hebron, Jerusalem, what will remain for them? Tel Aviv and Haifa? This is not at all a source of inspiration. They will collapse by themselves like that. It means that the whole Zionistic project dependent upon the claim that Jerusalem is the city of David with the first temple and second temple, and we are coming back in order to be here, and everyone that comes with claims against Israelis' interest must be honest that his claims are against the fulfillment of that prophecy.
Morten, would you like to ask a question or?
Yes, I will perhaps have a question about settlements. Do you think that Israel will keep let part of what is now Area C, most of that will become part of Area A or B? Is that process going forward? Do you?
I wish that not. We need that. Yitzhak Rabin, in his own hand, in necessary points, he did that with his own pen, according to geographical consideration. And everyone really knowing the meaning of this terrain must follow his logic. And I think that we need that place. It is part of our homeland. And why not to struggle for land? Everyone in the world struggling for land. Why not us?
So there is one last question, then we have to wrap it up. One follower in the audience is asking, what will be the result if there is a free and fair democratic election within the Palestinian Authority? Would then a terrorist organization come to power?
Hamas will take power, of course.
Yeah.
And therefore, they are prevented themselves from election.
I see. Tobias, did you have another question, or was that the question? Yeah, okay, great. That concludes our hour with Gershon Hacohen. Thanks again for the time you could put aside for us, and thanks for all the insight you gave us, and thanks for all your service to the State of Israel.
Okay, great. And then
Yes.
just tell, if you really are interested, not just in Israel, but in what we can learn from my analysis regarding the new warfare, and I think it is really interesting. It could be found in my paper, and I'll send it to you.
Yeah, thanks. Please accept our digital applause. And
Very much.
have a great evening.
You too.
Yeah, okay. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Så med det vil jeg bare si til alle dere norske og danske seere at vi har i neste uke tirsdag den 24. Nok et Zoom-møte. Da det minnedagen for jødiske flyktninger fra arabiske land og Iran som blir tema. Og det skulle jo vært en stor begivenhet i Oslo, men på grunn av koronapandemien så flytter vi den også online, og det ble visning av filmen Remember Baghdad, og etterpå en Zoom-samtale med filmregissøren. Så det kommer til å bli veldig interessant, og håper at flest mulig av dere får anledning til å delta på det webinaret. Så da finner dere informasjon om det på miff.no. Vil du legge noe til?
Tirsdag klokken 18.
Tirsdag klokken 18, ja. Så husk det, ikke onsdag, men tirsdag i neste uke. Så send gjerne invitasjon videre til venner og familie. Husk det veldig enkelt å dele invitasjon til MIFF-møter. Det bare å dele Zoom-lenker. Sende det ut til flest mulig i familiegrupper på Facebook, eller på WhatsApp, eller på SMS, eller på mail, eller samme hva du bruker. Så da ønsker vi alle fortsatt god kveld. Og så det bare en time til hovedstyret MIFF skal ha styremøte og behandle budsjettet for neste år. Så vi får oss en liten pause. Greit, ha det bra.